Tonight, a parent's dilemma. The man who wants every baby boy circumcised.
Parents have got the responsibility to ensure what's best for their children.
The campaign to make it illegal.
It is child abuse. The fact is, it is painful, invasive.
And the grown men reversing the past.
There were parts I didn't have, and I wanted to have the whole set.
Of years, but it's still controversial. I'm talking about male circumcision. Not only is it contentious, it's confusing. Depending on who you speak to, rates of circumcision in Australia are both rising and falling. It's either a life or death decision or a complete waste of time. The only certainty in this debate, it's sure to raise hackles.
Maybe you can roll over. You're gonna roll over the camera?
He doesn't know it yet, but today's a very big day for 15-week-old Liam O'Loughlin and his doting parents, Jen and Chris.
Come on, let's have a look. Let's have a look.
They've decided to circumcise their child, a choice the majority of Australian parents don't make because it's long been considered medically unnecessary.
Hey, buddy.
Aren't you strong? We love our child very much, and we would never do anything to hurt him. We've made this decision because we feel it's in the best interest of our child, Liam's health now and in the future.
Yeah, I guess we sort of see it as another form of vaccination, I guess.
Opponents of circumcision say if it isn't broken, don't fix it.
Pretty hard to keep it on. Oh, what's that?
And in Liam's case, everything's working perfectly.
No, you couldn't have timed that any better.
That was good, buddy.
That's good.
Is that to get Mum back for this, eh? Okay, if you hold his legs.
Yep.
And so now they're doing their best to ensure Liam doesn't feel any pain by starting to apply anaesthetic cream an hour before the procedure.
Just cut some of the end off so it's not so long.
Yeah, just be careful with the scissors. Scissors that close to...
The fact that a parent believes that they're doing the right thing for a child doesn't mean that what they're doing is the right thing.
So, simple question, simple answer. Circumcision, yes or no?
Definitely yes.
No matter the medical advice, there is fierce debate over circumcision, to snip or not to snip. And the only thing Professor Brian Morris and barrister Paul Mason agree on is that they will never agree.
The evidence is very strongly in favour.
I think it's barbaric because it is unnecessary.
Really, for parents, it's a no-brainer these days.
On the contrary, more than anything, it's confusing. While the current medical advice here is don't bother, there has been a slight shift in thinking in America. The influential Academy of Paediatrics now says the health benefits outweigh the risks of the procedure, but not enough to recommend routine circumcision. Back here, pro-circumcisers are claiming that small shift as proof circumcision is a medical necessity. Do you think parents who don't have their boys circumcised are bad parents?
If a parent decides not to have their boy circumcised, that is their decision, as long as they know the consequences of that. And if they don't have their boy circumcised, certainly that boy and his future sexual partners will be at increased risk of all sorts of diseases. Some minor, some major, including penile cancer, possibly prostate cancer, and even deaths.
There is zero evidence, and there is not one single study in history that demonstrates that circumcising a baby has any effect on his future propensity for contracting or not contracting any disease. It just doesn't happen.
But Queenslanders Jen and Chris are not reassured. So, as circumcision hasn't been automatically offered in hospitals since the 1990s, they've brought Liam to this nondescript surgery in Brisbane.
Good morning, Liam. How did you get on with the cream? Yeah.
And with more than 30,000 circumcisions under his belt,
Good morning, Chris.
there is no one better equipped than Dr. Terry Russell to do the job.
Oh, no screaming. Be good. You're all right.
Hey,
Yes,
buddy.
You're good. Oh, you're okay.
In their heads, Chris and Jen believe this is the right thing to do. But in their hearts, it's an anxious time. They're not allowed in with their son, and nor are we.
He shouldn't feel anything, he shouldn't remember anything. So yeah, hopefully it's just goes on without a hitch.
Logically, there should be no argument. But what we've got in the case of circumcision is all of the hot buttons in one. We've got genitalia, we've got infants, we've got disease, and we've got surgery. In fact, the other one for some people is religion.
While circumcision is a personal and often difficult choice for parents, most doctors say it's not needed. Professor Morris from Sydney University thinks differently. He'd like to see every baby boy born in Australia routinely circumcised. Why not wait? Why not let parents let their children make the choice?
It's crazy stuff. You don't start educating children once they decide that they want to be educated. I've got kids, I know all these sort of issues. Parents have got the responsibility to ensure what's best for their children.
It denies the right of the child the opportunity of having the body that they were born with. And if they want to change that body when they're grown up, great, go ahead.
May I ask, are you circumcised?
No, I'm not.
Are you circumcised?
Indeed, like most males born in the 1950s, I am circumcised.
Circumcised men accept their body as normal, and if you suggest to them that it's not, which statistically it isn't, then they need to defend that position.
But not Elwyn Moyer. As a baby, he was circumcised. At 4, he realised a small part of him was missing, and since then he's lived with a huge sense of loss.
I felt that I'd been interfered with or robbed in some way. Just that realisation that there were parts I didn't have, and I wanted to have the whole set.
So what was the impact?
I experienced it quite a lot as anger, this sort of brewing anger, resentment, even rage.
28-year-old Elwyn doesn't blame his parents. They did what they thought was right at the time. But he estimates today he's just one of thousands of circumcised Australian men who wish they weren't. Do you feel brave talking about this?
I feel awkward. It's a strange thing to talk to people about, to open up that topic.
So why do you do it?
I think we need to.
In the past, you have said circumcision is tantamount to child sexual abuse.
Yes, it is child abuse, and because it's abuse of a child's sexual organs, it's sexual abuse. Logic.
I can picture parents all over the country throwing things at you at the TV screen, saying there's absolutely no way we sexually abused our sons.
No, I understand that. And they have done everything they can to help their baby and to protect their baby from what they want to protect the baby against. But the fact is that it is painful, invasive, irreversible.
What they're saying is you're mutilating your child, and that's say that to any parent, for any child, you'd just go off your head. If somebody told me I'm mutilating my kid, I'd just rip them a new one. They've got no right to say that. I haven't done anything to hurt my kid. It's to help them.
Just watch how he doesn't go over the edge.
No one is going to tell Coleman and Beck Gillane how to raise their 3 children. Living the idyllic life just outside of Hobart in Tasmania, clearly Maggie and their circumcised sons, Vion and Owen, are their world.
It's our choice. Like, nobody can have a problem or an issue with what we've done with our kids. They're our kids. We're doing what we think is the right thing for them.
We're doing what we think is right for our kids.
So, yeah.
You guys are a minority here in Tasmania for having your boys circumcised, so does that make you think twice about telling people what you've done?
No.
A little bit. I don't openly say, oh, you know, woohoo! Look at the boys circumcised. How about you?
What have we got to cut?
The Apple Isle is the one state in the country considering officially banning circumcision. As it stands, no doctor here will do an elective circumcision. So families like the Ghislaines have to travel to the mainland for the procedure. Not surprisingly, it's barrister Paul Mason who is agitating for the ban.
I made a referral to the Tasmanian Law Reform Institute to look at it, and their final report is that it's unethical and it's a breach of the child's human rights. So they are proposing a general ban.
Do you really believe making circumcision a criminal offence is going to stop it?
I expect that over time it will become part of our culture to understand that this is something that we don't do.
I think that's just shock tactics. I really do, because, I mean, are our children traumatised? Were you traumatised as a child?
No, I personally think it's ridiculous.
I think it's a bit silly.
Yeah, I don't know. Which room did he... Was he in the...
I think that one.
Right at the end.
Back in Brisbane, the wait for baby Liam's operation to be over is getting a bit much for Dad Chris.
He's not making too much noise. If any. Spoke too soon.
And here's how sensitive circumcision has become. We're not allowed to show you Liam's procedure because Dr. Russell fears being sued.
First thing that we have to do is separate off that adhesion between the foreskin and the head of the penis.
But it was a very different story 5 years ago when 60 Minutes last looked at this debate.
I'm crushing along the midline.
Back then, Dr. Russell was proud to show off his circumcision precision.
And she shouldn't feel a thing. There you go.
And explain how the technique he uses is virtually painless. He uses a device called a plastibell, inserts it under the baby's foreskin and ties it off with string. And how traumatic is it then?
Very minor.
So the babies we hear crying in your surgery are not crying from pain?
I would say that the babies will pretty much all cry, Tara, but normally once the procedure is over and the assistant lets go of the legs, crying stops instantly.
It might feel longer than 15 minutes, but baby Liam's snip is complete. Okay. And he's reunited with his parents. A quick look in from Dr. Russell and everyone is happy.
And Chris, it looks perfect. It's
Excellent.
exactly the right length and
Awesome.
lovely and even and virtually foolproof. So it's going to be an excellent result.
Good to hear.
Sadly, Elwyn Moyer's experience is vastly different. He's so unhappy circumcised, he's resorted to extraordinary steps to correct it. Dare I ask, how would you do that?
What you do is you use some specially created products to grip the remaining skin and apply some tension to it for several hours a day with some sort of weight or some sort of stretched cord.
Sounds awful.
It's not great. It's a bit of a burden, and but it's worth it.
A few hours after his operation, Liam O'Loughlin is sleeping like a baby, unaware, it would seem, of the procedure or the thought his parents put into it.
And we also talked about, you know, will it be more important for him to look like Dad as opposed to look more like his classmates, and, you know, if he's playing sports, you know, his friends, because that's, you know, going to be a factor as well. So
yeah.
we did.
But in saying that as well, like I've played a fair bit of sport in my time and whatever else, and I've never found any kids making fun of anyone that's either had the operation or haven't.
Do you look?
Well, it's sort of in the footy sheds. Yeah, it's all happening. So, but we're confident he won't remember a thing. So we're happy with that.
Remember to have your say on email, Facebook or Twitter.